Okay, so yeah, the masterclass is about Bitwig, not about my famous track or whatever. So it's no collaboration with Martin Garrix or David Guetta or whatever. I'm just going to show you how you can make music while having no knowledge about playing notes and whatever at all. Because nowadays we can all use a computer and actually, I've been doing this since 1990. My first release was in 1991. And I already used only one computer back then. It was an Amiga 500, and it had 512 KB of memory, so that's half a megabyte. And I sampled something with it, and yeah, I was able to release a track, and from there I could start my career. Then, you know, I started a studio, and I made some money, and then I kind of evolved my studio in analog gear and equipment. And, you know, where everybody was going right, I was always trying to go left, and the vice versa, of course. So I never bought a 909, which I regret right now, because it's kind of like the Bitcoin of beats. They raise in price every week. But, yeah, so I was always a fan of making music digitally, although I have a big modular system at home now. Which is why I also like to use Bitwig nowadays. You can say, yeah, Bitwig also sounds a little bit like a Bitcoin, of course. But if you are very good in this program, you can change Bitwig into Bitcoins, probably. So I'm going to show you some fun stuff which you can do with this program. It's a very modular kind of environment. It's a DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, which is fairly new. I think I was using Ableton before, and before that I used FL Studio. But I was traveling a lot because my girlfriend back then lived in Singapore, so I had to be in the plane 13 hours, 3-4 times a month. So yeah, that was not so much fun. So I had to be able to bring my stuff in the plane and be able to produce outside. And FL Studio back then was only for PC, so and I was playing music as a DJ with a Mac, with OS X. So yeah, I had to change to another program so that it became Ableton. But yeah, I made a few tracks on that, but I could never really get into the arrangements on that program. So when Bitwig announced themselves, I wrote myself in for the beta release immediately. And yeah, from version 1, I've been using this program now. And yeah, I don't know, I have really a lot of fun, and I'm making a lot of tracks. And what you see here now, like for example, this thing, it's my heartbeat. It's not funny? Okay. That's not my heartbeat. It's a modular thing. The thing is that what you see in front of here is like, it's basically the same as Ableton. You have like launch clips, and this is the arrangement, what you see here. This is basically your sketchbook. And you know, these are all the channels with all the sounds. Group 1, as you can see, is it's a mixture of two channels. One is the kick, which is a drum machine, and here is the kick, and this is a note, which I will explain later why that is. And this is an instrument which has nothing, because it just has notes in this clip, and I'll also explain you later also why that is. So let's start with a kick, the basic principle of a techno beat. That sounds something like this. Yeah, it sounds very, very kicky. Let me see, where's the monitor here? Yeah, and it has like a nice reverb on it. So yeah, I thought, you know, when I do a masterclass, why not just produce something? So I started this 2 days ago, so I can show you a little bit what are the fun things in Bitwig. So let's expand this a little bit. This is the kick channel here. What I did is I used Nicky Romero's VST plugin for the kick, but of course you can use anything. You can use samples, VSTs, whatever. So what happens here is you just drop. You know, you could also, I can show you here. Here are the samples. So these are all the kick samples. You can just pick up a sample and drag it here. And then, you know, oh, this is actually a loop. But it doesn't really matter because we're not going to listen to it anyway. I have the kick here. What I did is, there is a transient control on it. The transient control basically helps you regulate the attack of a certain kick or hi-hat or whatever a little bit. I always use it on the kick because you can make the kick a little bit more punchy or less punchy, a bit shorter, a bit longer. It just depends how you want it in a mix. As you can see here, there is also an effects box. So inside this transient control, you can put an effect. So you can even filter the transient on itself a little bit. This is that VST of a kick. So you draw basically the line of the pitch here, and this is the amplifier. And you can put a little bit of a click on it, and then. It's a little bit low volume now, so you can make it sound like this or whatever. Okay, that's quite a kick, as you can listen. So what happened? What did I do? Here is the kick. Here is that drum channel, right here. And then you can see there is a few effects boxes behind it. So you can put behind this kick plugin the reverb, and there are several options, to make that reverb sound that it's not in the way of the bass drum. If I play it now, there is a reverb going on, and then it will be distorted a little bit, so you have a little bit more power in that reverb. Then I put one of my favorite EQs, it's the Fab filter. And of course, you need to sidechain stuff a little bit. Then here is a drum channel. It sounds very boring right now. I just programmed a little bit. But together it sounds quite neat. Sidechaining, one of the most important things in techno, and there are several options for that in Bitwig, which are very fun. First of all, this is the modulator section. Every channel, every module will have a little modulator section. That's this button right here. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Maybe I'm standing in front. So if I close it, it looks like this. This is the tool. So basically, it's sidechaining. You could do it with a compressor, so that something, a channel comes in, and that will compress the main channel of the sound which is coming in. That is the traditional way. This is the modulator way. This is one of those modulators, and it's called audio sidechain. So it's basically the same principle. You put basically, normally you would have a compressor module, and then in the back you would have an extra input for that sound to come in. But here you can basically modulate any sound, or any filter with that sound that comes in. The thing is, I put this reverb behind that kick, and that makes the kick, very long. So the kick has a really long tail. But if you're going to sidechain something, you don't want that long tail into your sidechain chain. So what I did is I took one of those audio sidechain modules, and then I chose which device will be used as an input. And then what you can do is, you can see here group 1, here is that kick. And then if you just do kick pre, that means that you do it pre-fader and not pre-effect. And post it will be post-fader. So that means when you change the volume, then also the sidechain will affect the modulator. What I did now is I went to drum machine chains. English is really nice when you have a dry mouth, and especially the word chains. And then you can choose the plugin itself. So as you can see, and then you take the VST out. So what happens is that you, as a sidechain modulator, you don't take that reverb along with it, because that comes after the output of the kick itself. So you can basically plug a cable before that reverb, so you don't have that tail in your sidechain chain. There it was. Obviously, you can hear that much better on a chord or whatever, which I will show you later on. So this is one method of doing sidechaining, and I'll quickly show you how that works. So I'll play it. You can see here the volume coming in. And then when I press this, you can already see that it's modulating the amplitude. And now you can really see what's going, or hear what's going on. And then you can say, okay, a little bit shorter, or I'll just take the high of what's coming in. So I think it's a really neat feature of Bitwig, this audio sidechain input. Usually what happens is if you play a kick without that kick drum, then the sidechained sound will have a big rise in volume all of a sudden, because you're compressing it, you're placing it down. And in a live situation, you don't want to have that sound that is compressed coming up all of a sudden. So I thought, how can I come up with a way of suppressing that sound while not having it coming up, and also not use a limiter. So this is why where this note comes in. So I just placed a random sample which has a kind of like a stable sound, and I looped it really short, so it has some kind of like a a drilling tone, and that just keeps on running. And every plugin that I use the sidechain with, I put the volume also on an audio sidechain, but then I put the volume up. So I let this note will put the volume to a higher level. And then when the clip is not playing, that note is also not playing, so that volume will go down again. So the moment I stop that clip, the volume will go down. Can everybody follow what I'm saying here? Yeah, everyone can follow? Yeah? Okay, well then we continue. So what happens is you stop the clip and the volume stays down, which is also part of this really nice modulating system which Bitwig has. Then I wanted to show you how you can make some music. Oh, where's my bag? Without playing notes at all. So, oh no, we're still in the sidechaining actually. It's good that I printed this, because my memory is not that good anymore after all that techno partying, of course. So there are several ways. So this was the audio receiver way of sidechaining. Then obviously we have the traditional way of sidechaining. We can just, Command D, make a new channel. So this is basically the same channel as that drum kit. And then what you could do is just put a dynamics in there from Bitwig itself. Right here, and then also here you can say, okay, I want the kick to be the device input, and again you can choose, which channel you want. Again, you can choose before the reverb, after the reverb, or whatever you want. So yeah, this time again I take the output. You put the ratio up, you put the knee a little bit down, the threshold a little bit down, and then you can see it coming in here. That is the traditional way. But what happens then is if you stop the clip, then that volume will go up a little bit, and then what you can do is you can put the ratio on this side also a little bit lower, so when you stop the kick, then the volume will go down. But it means that the release time of this particular dynamics you will hear that. So when you stop the kick, then the volume goes up a little bit, and that is what you don't want. So this is why I was using that little long note to lower the volume. what is also really cool is, as you can see here, there's no instrument here, but there's just a few notes in the clip. You can use sidechaining also on anything with node sidechain. So you just place this, and then again you open it up, and then you can choose which device you want, and then in that group is instrument 2. You just take instrument 2, and then that note which is played here, which is basically nothing, it's just a, you know, a placed note that will come in. Then you can put it on the volume like this, and as you can see, same principle. Works really well. Okay. Then, you know, I really like to randomize stuff. So, as you can see here, there's this arpeggiator, and there is a step modulator. It's not just step mother, but it's the step modulator. That's what it stands for. So yeah, let's listen to this. So it's just basically playing random notes. Let me see, because the filter is a little bit low, so you don't. Think like, what the hell is this? Well, it is music. No one could ever play this tight, I think. You know, if you have completely no inspiration whatsoever, this always works. So I'll explain how this works. Basically here, like this. So this is the original channel. You place an arpeggiator, you place a step modulator, and inside the step modulator, which starts like this, there is a diatonic transposer. And with these settings, you can say, okay, all the notes that are played here, it's basically in the clip, it's nothing but a little chord. So it's just 2 notes like this, and they will play accordingly. And then what it does, it will go through this chain, so it will go to the arpeggiator. So that means that it goes and after that it will go to the step modulator, and then the step modulator modulates the note shift in this diatonic transposer. And this is where the note changes come from. So I just placed the plugin behind it so that it makes some sound. It's like a bell sound, as you can hear. It's also a new plugin, you know, like an instrument plugin, which is in Bitwig now, the new beta. This is basically a beta version I'm working in, a beta 4 of 2.3. And it works quite stable, as you can see. So what I did here is, if you want to record those notes, you just send, you receive on the channel where you want to record those notes. You can choose where you want to receive the notes from. So in this chain, inside the step modulator is this diatonic shifter. So I want the notes to come out of here, because that is the last module in the chain. And then, you know, on the input of the channel, the MIDI input, you can choose where you want it to come from. So I chose Diatonic Transposer from that channel above. Then you just press record, and you can see that the notes are recorded. And think, okay, that's enough. And then on this channel, there is a completely other preset, as you just heard, and then, yeah. Yeah, that's basically baking techno. It's not that difficult. You know, and the cool thing is, yeah, you just repeat it like this, or you know, you do it over 3, or whatever. And now you think like, yeah, that sounds like nothing, but yeah. and it sounds like nothing. But it's like this, it sounds a little bit like something. Yeah, there was something else playing, which I will show you later. So this is, you know, it's just so much fun to work like this. And from this kind of chords, you get new inspiration. And you think, OK, I can layer this string on top of it, or I cut a little bit, or you bounce it into a clip, which is also quite easy. You can make a wave file out of it. You can slice it to a drum machine. You can slice it to a multi-sample. You can bounce it in place. What happens is it makes a wave file out of it, and immediately this becomes a hybrid channel, which means you can still have the original you know, instrument, but it already changed into also an audio playing system. So now it's just an audio file. Works super easy. Next up, there is... this is really cool because you can make super fat sounds in a very easy way. So this is called the XY instrument. What it does is it has, you know, instrument A, B, C, D, as you can see here. And let's start here. That sounds like this. And what this is basically a sampler. It's actually absolutely nothing. It doesn't take any CPU power whatsoever. And then there is this guy, he's called Adventure Kid, and he made... the hip-hop guys are leaving now. This is guy Adventure Kid, and he made 4,096 single-cycle waveforms. What is a single-cycle waveform? It's basically a of a waveform, and I can show you. It sounds like this. What it is, it's one cycle of, you know, what is normally a wave file. So you only have, you know, this part until the circle is round again. If you place that in the sampler, you know, let's make a new one here. This is still empty. You don't have to do anything. You just drag one of those files to here, and it will be in the sampler immediately, and then you can play it. And this is, yeah, it's super cool. And there is something really nice. This is called stacking. So you can, for example, make 3 stacks. That means that the same sound has different modulators on each stack. So I will show you what this sounds like. So what you can do is when you touch it, you see that these things become green. You know, the sample itself is now very static. It's just a loop. You could sample also from old analog synthesizers, whatever, make a single cycle out of it, and then you basically have the sound of that synthesizer in that little loop, and it's 0. It's less memory even than my first record in '91. So it's really, really, really small. But if you do this and you touch the shift a little bit, you get this. It's basically 2 propeller engines next to each other. And this is just stack number 3. And then you can press on 2, and then you have new options again, and then you can shift it maybe 5 semitones. And this is just pitch shifting. It's nothing. We didn't even touch any effects yet. So let's just touch any effects. So you open the box here. you can place anything there, VSTs, whatever. So, you know, let's just put the standard Bitwig delay. It's a delay 4. It has some nice presets, like Ghost Wind, for example. Yeah, and here you can set the mix, and of course, you know, the funny thing is that basically you stacked this, but it's just one sample still, you know. You can even set it to single trigger or legato slide, everything. So you can let it slide. And you can still play it as chords as well. But yeah, we are still here in that, you know, number D. Why did I do that XY instrument? Well, if you do this. Niet slecht, zou ik zeggen. En ja, de grap is, als je denkt van, nou ja, dat ene sampletje van daarnet vind ik eigenlijk niet zo bijzonder. Dan klik je op het foldertje waar die sample vandaan komt. En dan kan je gewoon door alle andere geluiden of samples of whatever je maar hebt doorheen gaan. En alle settings blijven bewaard. Sorry?
De joke is.
De joke is?
Ja, niet de grap is, maar de joke is.
Oh ja, de joke is. Ja. Leuk Bitwig dingetje, denk ik. Nice Bitwig thing, I think. So that's that. So let me show you. Well, actually, you know, you've already seen it. I put the delay on it, and it sounds really fat. What's the time? Yeah. Okay. Then. One of my favorite modulators is the step modulator, the step modder. Here it comes again. So now I'm just taking a sample. You know, if you want to get really funky, you when I start playing now. So what happens is I placed a step modulator here, and with this I am shifting through the start point of the sample, and you know that can make really cool chord riff changes. You could basically, you know, if you start up Spotify and you download a program which is called Soundflower. It's next to it. You can basically what comes out of the sound card of your laptop. So what comes out of the sound output of Spotify, you can direct it, you know, directly into a channel of Bitwig, and then you can record it. And then you record something here, and then you put a step modulator on it, and you know you shift through the start point, and nobody knows what that sample was anymore. Especially if you're gonna go into those, you know, what I just did with the delays and the gritty plugins. So you know, let's just place one here. This one I always like. It's super dirty and disgusting. but this one is still open. So I can also do the bit rate and clocking and all that. Now you can hear it. Okay. I'll play a note. Yeah, I don't think anybody can hear anymore what that original sample was, right? So it doesn't really matter what you sample. And what I do a lot of times also is I just take a beat loop. Let's see what we have here. For example, this one and this one, maybe this. It sounds like this. Okay. So now we come in the IDM reason. Let's see. Yeah, I love techno. So now it sounds like shit, of course, but you can just by moving this, you change it. We're getting somewhere. I mean, there's no way you can program this. And of course, again, you can do some sidechaining stuff here to keep it all under control. And yeah, this is what I did here also already, I think. So this modulator is going to the output of the sampler, and then yeah, it just ducks where it's needed. So yeah, this is basically my favorite way of producing stuff, and also if you want to, if you have like a really low period of creativity, this is the way to go, because you can create sound banks super easy, and you can quickly record everything, and then yeah, I mean before you know it, at the end of the month, you have so many sounds that you have so much inspiration again, and you even are surprised about what the sounds are that you created in the past. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, oh, it's a little bit, yeah, that's all right. So are there any questions that you might ask for this program? Or because we have like 10 minutes Q&A. There's a question there? No? Yes.
Hello, yeah. Which one first?
Yeah, just start from the beginning and then...
Any questions?
Yeah, there was there with the gray hoodie.
Maybe you mentioned it, but with the XY plugin, did you have 4 different samplers on the 4 sides, or how did you, when you moved the point?
Yeah, I did basically the same principle. So this sound is also that sampler. Oh, I'm not hearing. Oh yeah, that's the solo, of course. But you can also put a VST block in there. It doesn't really matter. So let's do that. Yeah, or an instrument or whatever, Let's take the polysynth. Just drag it here. And then this channel here is that polysynth. Oh, the sampler is also still there, but... And then take a nicer preset. And then you can morph. Oh. And then, of course, you can modulate all those things again. So, there is all these super cool modulating options. So the moment you touch something, you can, for example, do expressions. So it will modulate on velocity and timbre and all that kind of stuff. Or you can, do the classic LFO. And you let this one move like this, a bit slower. Ik vind het vet. I like it vet. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I got a short question. So, do you produce everything end to end in Bitwig Studio? Is it enough dynamic range? Because I'm always into like looking out for 64-bit floating point, blah blah blah, because it's supposed to be better. But does it have enough dynamic range? That's one question. And could you show us just really quickly some of the workflow advantages of Bitwig as opposed to other DAWs?
That's a good question because I forgot to mention that. Well, you know, for me, you know, making music is basically a lot of experimenting, as you can see. Of course, I can also play some notes and stuff, but then, yeah, you end up with having those notes the whole time, and you want something which is a little bit different than the rest. So you create some randomness, so you have something edgy. So, for example, you know, you like how this kick is going together with this drum kit, or you know, you like this synth that we just made. And you think like, okay, this project is going nowhere, then you can just drag this channel. Oh, wait, I need to make a new one first. So you say File, New Project, and then it's not activated. And then you can just drag this channel up into a new project. You activate the audio engine, and here you are. This is the new project with just this synth. And you know, for workflow, of course, this is super cool. Like, okay, am I going to go the clubby way, or am I going to go the industrial techno way? You can all do it side by side, and you know, you take the best of both worlds. And this is workflow-wise, I think, really, really, really nice. And then, yeah, the dynamic range, yeah, it's 32-bit floating point, so there is no end. Basically, you know, that means that you can clip until the end of the universe. The only problem is that there is, of course, a master output, and that is where you know, where the sound is going to go out from. So you have to stay within a certain limit. There is plenty of dynamic range. They recommend staying in a low volume. That is always better because, you know, it's a noiseless environment, so you won't have any noise whatsoever if you do everything digitally. You know, if you use some modular stuff, then there could be a little bit of noise coming in. And then, yeah, you just use gates and stuff to cut that out. But yeah, the dynamic range is endless, and I would say never underestimate the power of someone who does mastering for you. So just don't clip. You know, in any plugin there could be a limit, but the whole environment does not really have a limit. 32-bit floating point means there is no limit, basically. Yeah. Yes.
Next question.
Gonna ask this in Netherlands, Dutch. Zou je misschien de verhouding kunnen laten zien tussen de kick en reverb, zeg maar hoe die naast, achter de decay staat, zeg maar? Als je snapt wat ik bedoel.
Je wil de verhouding zien van de kick en de reverb?
Want je hebt dus een reverb op je kick zitten, maar hoe klinkt die zonder reverb en waarom zou je die reverb er zo op pompen, zeg maar?
Yeah, no, yeah. You know, the question is this reverb. Why do you have it like this? Well, you know, we have basically the drum code sound, and most of those tracks have this kind of kick with a reverb like this. This is also why I wanted to show you that, and You know, if I turn the reverb off, it sounds like this, and it's also quite fat. Yeah. You know, this is what the transient control does. You know, actually the kick is not that bad like this, to be honest. This is what the reverb does. So yeah, it's just like big room, you know, it sounds big room. You know, to control that reverb, I used the envelope follower. So you can, you know, modulate the mix. So you only hear the reverb when the kick comes in, because the envelope follows the attack and the decay of the bass drum itself. See? So what I did was, you know, this envelope follower, you can set an attack and a release, and then I just send it to the mix of the reverb. So like this is already enough. Then inside the reverb itself, so the wetness of the reverb, you can even put other plugins again. So I just placed the distortion there, so it becomes a little bit more raw, and it comes also closer to the sound of the bass drum. It just gets a little bit more muddy, but you control everything, you know, with a high pass and a low pass. What is also quite cool is you can place a time shift in between. So let's do that. Then you can shift when the reverb is coming. So if you feel, so yeah, it just makes a certain type of groove basically. And what is cool here is that you know, once you let the clip go and then there is no bass drum for a moment and you come back, then you will hear that reverb coming in because you placed the reverb before the time of the kick with the time shift. So you basically, the reverb is in the buffer and then it comes earlier than the kick. So that's quite a cool thing, see? You could hear it. So let me play it like this and then it comes back. You know? I like that effect. Yeah, it sounds like gas holder, yeah, gashouder style. Okay. The guy in the back? Ja, kom op jongen. Je kan het. Dat is zijn hartslag, zag ik.
You play a lot live. Do you use Bitwig as well? Because
yeah, well, the 2nd of March, I'm playing together with Egbert again. The thing is, Bitwig is not being, it's not really made for live as of yet. I mean, I asked them, but you can, obviously. But my idea is to just have two basically surfaces, so like a Surface Pro from Microsoft, you know, it's a touchscreen tablet. And Bitwig also has touch control, so you can just touch the clips and then they will start playing. Slate Digital, they also have a big touchscreen, so you could use that as well. And then I would have two identical setups, and you know, I just load a few tracks in here, like track number 1, track number 2, etc., etc. You can load several tracks at once, and then you can just activate the audio engine and play, you know, in this kind of way. It has a MIDI input as well, so you can sync it to other gear. It, of course, has MIDI output and all the clocks and everything that you can wish for. And, you know, I'm completely in love with modular systems. And ES8 just released a Bitwig edition of their USB sound card. And it works immediately. You just take the module, you place it in your Eurorack. It has USB output, you plug it in, and it works. Like, it's 2 seconds. And then Bitwig has all these modulators. So, you know, I set it to CV, and then all the CV comes out. And then here is a CV out modulator, for example, and then you can say, okay, I want this the control voltage to go out of this and this output, and then every modulator, which you see here, you can send to this knob, and this will send values of immense reach. And yeah, you can use this to play live without any problem. And then, you know, you could let your modeler run and then open up a new track, and there you go again.
And is it you work with a touchscreen, but it's also possible to use a launchpad or something?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can use. I mean, I'm using the Jam here.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and then yeah, when
cool.
you can go through all the clips, even the macros, which you see here. Like if I press macro from a certain channel, this one is immediately attached. See. And then you can create your own macro pages as well. So you do edit. And then you add some macro controls. And then you can, you know, put this in a certain value. And then this one is now this one. So super easy, super fast working. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we are 2 minutes over time. That's better than 3 weeks. Is what my wife always says. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Enjoy producing with Bitwig.